Hello everybody, welcome back to Road to Master. I hope you all have an amazing day. We're starting off with the white pieces against a 1912 from the United States. Let's play normal stuff. In fact, let's play an Italian. I don't think I've ever really played the Italian as white. We have the two knights. We can go for a fried liver. Not really a fan. Let's play knight c3. I think that's a move you can do from my very limited knowledge. And this is more like a Guccio Coco piano, or whatever you want to call it. We could take this. I think there is potentially lines with bishop takes. So let's castle. Castle, play it safe. And we can think about doing some silly tactics. Whether that's good or not, I'm not sure. No longer works with d7 being played. Because pawn takes knight is the answer. We can try kick out this dark squared bishop. Again, I don't really know the themes of this opening. I think d3 can be played. I think we can play bishop e3. There is the immediate threat of knight d4. So I think we play bishop e3. And if pawn takes, we can think about launching some kingside attack. They haven't castled yet, which is interesting. Very interesting. Yep. So I think here we have to take. And we can think about even a knight e2. I don't know about knight e2. Whether that is actually a good move or not. We can think about h3, sorry. In fact, I don't mind h3. Trying to get rid of this knight. We can do a... No, we can't because the knight covers the bishop. I was thinking bishop takes and then knight check, but the knight covers the bishop after queen takes. Which is fine. Can think about a rook b1. And try move this knight somewhere. I don't think that necessarily does anything though. We could think about knight e2. But then both bishop takes and bishop takes both are good for black, I believe. We could try throw in a check. I don't think that does anything. It's probably giving them tempos, if anything. And we end back on b3 anyway, so what's the point? We could try a g4. Bishop takes is tempting for them, though, I think. Is tempting for them. I'm going to try rook b1. Just to cover this pawn, I want to get rid of this knight, so maybe these tactics will work. Although I just realised bishop takes f7 is the obvious move. c6 I like for them. And we can try... I'm going to try knight e2 now. They still haven't castled, which worries me slightly. But I don't think they're going to be castling queenside. I think our king's reasonably safe. Obviously not as safe as ideally we would like it. But it's not particularly unsafe, especially with the lack of development and the lack of commitment, I think, from their king as well. d4, they probably want to break in the center. We'll ignore that and drop back to b3. Try to undouble our pawns would be good, I think. And I think a king h2 is going to be necessary here. The dark squares I'm not too upset about. h5. h5 is fine. We could try breaking the center with a c3. c3, d4. I don't mind. I'm fine with h4. We could drop back to h1 if absolutely necessary. The rook lift, we might need to be a bit careful of. Potentially. Let's go d4, yeah. Let's go d4. Smash open the center. If they're trying to commit without being castled, we'll go for the center. And we'll go back to e2 as well. Rook g1's coming. We can defend that way. And they do castle queenside, which I think is okay for us. We could force off the queens here. This is a very strong bishop. It is opposite coloured bishops as well. And our knight's not really doing much. We could make an instant threat on this pawn. Isn't horrible. Or we could try push the A or B pawn. D5 I don't mind, to be honest. D5 I don't mind. I think it's better to lock up this diagonal where our king's weakest. And we have things that can defend everything else. I think is a good defensive idea. If they go c5, we can think about b4, a4 break. And try attack their king a bit. And see what happens, basically. We can try an f4. I don't like the idea of f4. I think this is actually reasonably solid. We have rook g1 if we need it. And this knight's covering the f4 and g3 square as well. Sort of countering this knight if it ever goes to f5. h5, sorry. And yeah, just limiting the amount of squares they have to attack with, I think, is probably okay for us. Again, the computer's probably going to hate this. But I think for a human to actually make good use of this and make a good attack is going to be harder than it looks. We do have to be careful of this f2 pawn. It's a bit loose. And that could be bad if the bishop gets to g3. Knight takes, king takes. You know, you've got the queen coming in and looking at h3 combined with the rook there. They've moved the knight, potentially looking for an f5 break. Yeah. Yeah. f5, I think we just ignore. We just ignore. And then g5 we can take with this pawn. I think, honestly, we just have to start attacking. We just have to start attacking and see what happens. It's going to be a case of whoever gets to the king first, basically. Either that or it's going to play out as an opposite coloured bishop draw. Because I think these knights are just too close together to not trade off for each other. And the bishops are just on the other side of the board, really. This bishop, I don't like for them. It's doing nothing. a5 is a decent chance. But I think a3 could be okay. Or we just take bishop takes queen a4. Is interesting, at least. The king has this c7 square, which could be annoying to hit. Could be annoying to try hit. They go for the f5 break. And again, I think we just ignore it. We could try for queen b3. Is interesting with takes bishop there, winning the queen. And we also have like takes b5 as well. So I don't mind queen b3 at all. It could be seen as taking the queen away from the action on the king side. Getting rid of a defensive piece for a more attacking piece. But I think there are some legitimate threats they have to be aware of here. C6 is the threat in my eyes. They go for it. They fully go for it, which I respect, to be fair. But I think takes here just is nice. And they let us get a free queen. Thank you very much. They were too focused on the pawn pushes to realize the pieces. You know, focusing on the pawns, ignoring the pieces. Not a very good way to play, I don't think. If king takes, we can think about queen f7. I don't think that's a viable threat, though. We'll think about takes. And now we can sort of open this up because they have less attacking pieces. The rooks are a bit disorganized. We can get a rook on g1 if we need. And just try play it cool. Try play it cool. We can do this and take here with check. Get rid of another one of their pawns. I wouldn't be against trading off the queen for a rook. They resign anyway. But yeah, good win that, I think. We'll obviously see what the computer says. It was getting a bit heated on our king side, but sometimes you've got to take the heat in order to get a good attack going, you know. 84.0 versus a 72.7. 2200 versus 1650. Very harsh there. Let's have a look. So the Italian, I don't know. I don't know the Italian at all. I don't like this d3 move. It feels wrong. I'm much more of a fan of the d4 break. I don't like playing without space. You know, I like these open positions where your pieces are able to maneuver a bit more and create like wider threats rather than focusing on the same themes and committing all to sort of one attack. You're able to move around and poke around and make lots of little threats, basically. I think I prefer that a bit more. The other way to play this is to go into the fried liver, at which point d4, d5. If you watch some of my older videos where I started playing the Italian a bit, I go over this theory a bit. Very interesting stuff. We decide to play the Guccio piano whatever, with d3, and this is a very symmetrical position. I mean, it's entirely symmetrical. Only difference is I've castled. They didn't. They castled queenside. Bishop g4 is so annoying. I hate it, and it's another reason why I don't like d3, because I like the flexibility of being able to drop this bishop back to e2, and sort of cover that if I have to. Or you could go queen e3 as well and cover the knight while getting out of this pin. Bishop e3, try to open up the rook if they take. I thought was interesting. You've got d4 breaks potentially. You know, if they take, you've got the bishop and rook, queen and rook already lined up for the f7 square along with the bishop. It just looks nice. Computer saying dead even, but you know, I think this is nicer to play for white. Knight there, you have to take with the bishop. I mean, the immediate threat is I hope obvious. H3, it was asking to play that a bit earlier, but who cares? And then it does actually want g4 as well. And I thought there's got to be some sort of sack attack going on here. Whether it works or not, it's scary enough to be considered, I think. Yeah, basically. We played rook b1 instead, which is okay, still evenish. Knight back to e2, and this is the decision that got us in a bit of heat with bishop takes. And you can see the vulnerability surrounding our king. I do not mind these double pawns though, especially if they castled kingside. I think this could even potentially benefit us, or at least drop it back to more even ground. And the computer's saying it's gone from -1.7 to, if they castle, 0.7. So you're almost down a pawn-ish, practically negligible, to be honest. Because you've got this really nice g-file. The only trouble is potentially go for an f4 break, but with this pawn still here, your queen's struggling to get where it wants to go on this g4 and h5 square. So that could be a bit of a downside. They dropped the bishop back for some reason. I don't get that. Maybe they wanted to reroute it, get on the king a bit, but these pawns are just so locked up in the center. Unless you go for a d5 break, which could potentially have its own risks, especially with an uncastled king. I don't know. Knight g3, I felt was a bit of a defensive move. It's wanting f4. And with d3, I do see that this is actually still quite strong. I wanted f3 to stay there, but f4 is actually getting back a bit more of that activity you lost when they played bishop takes. Queen d7, just hitting the pawn, a bit of a one-move threat. Apparently g2's better. I'm guessing that's just to stay off this dark square diagonal if anything ever does open up. And this is minus 2.1, so they've got a significant advantage here. They started pushing pawns. I thought, yeah, the center break, you need to get this bishop involved on this dark square diagonal. And the d5 break is literally the only way to do it. You're not getting f5 anytime soon. This is really the only way to actually get that break going. c3, I'm looking for my own sort of play in the center. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. We keep going with that plan. Knight back to e2. I felt h4. Yes, it kicks my knight out of a good defensive square, but it also sort of stops your breaks a bit. I thought this g4 break might be a bit more appetizing. Not in this exact position, but you know, rather than h4, you're actually going for g4 and just straight up opening up the king, like long castles, get this other rook over here as well. To me, that looks a bit more forcing. I'm not quite sure though. The computer says it's fine. 92 long castles, and I don't like long castles. I think the king could potentially get away with being on d7, especially if you can get this queen on d6, and then connect the rooks that way. Long castling, you're sort of walking into trades at least. You know, if I take, you're walking into some trades. I don't think this works, but you get what I'm saying. It's just unnecessary, I think. d5 I was really happy with because you're permanently fixing this bad pawn structure. You're permanently fixing this dark squared bishop to the board, which is going to limit their attacking chances. And then a5 is actually the way to go. f5, you know, I don't need to do anything. Apparently knight g3 is the way to go, and I do really like this because you can't take, because pawn takes with check, king takes, and then queen takes here is just mate. So I have to let you take, and you don't have to take, which is cool because it's a fork as well. You know, I probably have to give up the exchange at least. Yeah, it's just really nice. That's a cool idea. I like that. We went queen b3 just for, I felt they were a bit coordinated here. You know, you can go a4 afterwards. Yeah, with the immediate threat. And I actually do really like f takes as well, because after f takes you don't have as much of an outpost with bishop d5, because before the pawn was there, so it's actually quite strong and it can stay there, but it can't stay there forever with this. You know, you've got like a knight f6 if necessary, obviously saving the queen first. D takes, they just missed this. Right, there's nothing else to it, they just missed this. Queen takes was the line. I thought bishop d5, maybe you could go for some c4, c5, or a4, a5. Either way, I think you have a lot of activity with a very unsafe king, you know. And they can try this, but I think just looking at the race, whoever wins, I think we're slightly quicker, because their king's on the file that breaks open and ours isn't. You know, the G file is the one that's going to break open, and our king's relatively safe on the H file with two pawns in the way. So I'm not sure. It was an interesting game, quite cool to play. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like if you liked. Please subscribe if you really liked, and I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Bye bye.